going on, guys? Welcome back to the Rollup TV. Today we have 3 awesome guests, which feels like a doozy now after doing 5 yesterday by myself. And I think we did 6 on Thursday when the internet bricked out. But unfortunately, we are in a state of war in the world. We have Iran. We have Trump jumping in on the Israel-Iran war. Latest I saw here was the Iranian government was telling people to leave Tel Aviv. Trump said he's looking for an unconditional surrender to the Iranian people. And it seems like both the leader of Iran and Trump both want to kill each other. So that's the state of things. The market is clearly, reflecting that. And I think that's okay. Generally, I think war is really, really bad for humanity, but it's going to force the hand of central banks to end up printing. And so I think if you can look back and study previous wars, small ones, big ones, they tend to have a similar outcome in terms of asset performance. But I feel that that's a little bit kind of shallow to think about as of now. So hearts go out to people in the Middle East. And yeah, I mean, just kind of grateful today for not having to worry about that sort of stuff. We have other topics, though, on the political spectrum that are happening as well. So why don't we just jump right into these and get started. Up first, we have Coinbase sponsoring the U.S. Army's 250th anniversary. This stirred the pot on Twitter and really ruffled some feathers. So Coinbase was the official sponsor of the U.S. Army's 250th anniversary in D.C. Amazon, Oracle, and some of these other big companies sponsored as well. And there was like a C-SPAN footage of all of these soldiers walking along, and then boom, Coinbase just kind of flashed. And really, I saw one tweet from Adam Cochran saying that he sold all of his Coinbase stock position. He's moving any assets that he had on Coinbase off of the exchange, and that this is not aligned with the original ethos that he signed up for. I mean, to me, that's a bit of an over-exaggeration. Like, I think all Coinbase is trying to do is achieve new audiences. But really, this raises broader questions about crypto's mainstream assimilation and really just institutional partnerships with large people in the world. So to me, I think people are over-exaggerating if you call this a sellout, because I just don't think this is like Coinbase selling out. I think it's them trying to reach new audiences. So that happened there. That's why people were upset. I understand why people were upset, but it's hard to kind of understand that, that Coinbase trying to go out and reach new audiences is part of the problem per se. So that was that. Moving on away from Coinbase and this kind of performance with regards to the army. Up next, we had some interesting news around Hyperliquid. So I put a tweet out yesterday as well, with the typical copy pasta meme, Hyperliquid hitting all-time high. And the question here is Hyperliquid the real deal, or is it overhyped? Now, disclaimer, myself and Rob have been holding a position in Hyperliquid since I think our first buys were around $2 on the minute or two it launched, and bought all the way up to like 10, 15. And so we think that this is going to keep doing well. I think we clipped out one of our first sells as of recent in I think yesterday even, or the day before. So I think anytime that I'm posting a price prediction of a crypto asset, something that I rarely ever do, or a screenshot of a ticker, it's a good time to sell. But in this tweet, I think Beast ICO, one of the more popular accounts on crypto Twitter these days, tweeted that hypercore, hyper EVM parallelism is one of the most interesting tech developments that we've seen in a while. There's a composability between the actual DEX and the perps exchange itself with the hyper EVM, with all the different farming opportunities, yield opportunities, and such there. So nobody really knows what this means, and nobody really knows how to value it. We had a really good episode with Flood about this on the TV a couple weeks back, where we talked about how to think about valuing Hyperliquid. And I think that right now people are arguing that its current valuation is risky and possibly overextended. That being said, Flood put out a tweet saying that real capital allocators are going to be looking for assets that have a substantial size and are kind of optimizing for growth, rather than kind of what some of you guys in the trenches may be doing, which is more of like trying to find the lowest cap. So that's one way to think about it. The other thing is that it doesn't have any VC backing, so there's not going to be like these, unlock schedules that you have to think about. But I think the way to think about Hyperliquid is that if it can obtain a small portion of what the total volume and market cap is of something like Binance or BNB, then I think there's still a lot of upside left. If they had VCs, would they have grown this fast? It's hard to say, but it's now kind of become the coin that like all of the anon accounts that hate on all VC coins, they even rip on me at times. That it's kind of become the coin for that type of mindset, and so I think that has done well for the entire Hyperliquid community and just environment as a whole. And so I think that'll probably continue. Do I think it's going to be like a Sol or ETH thing? I think it's going to outperform both ETH and Sol, not financial advice. But let's see. Let's see how this thing performs. Obviously, today things are down, but I think this is going to continue to be one of the fastest horses. And of course, I do have a position, so not financial advice. All right, moving on to the next kind of bigger news of the day is EigenLayer launched Eigen Cloud. So they've actually rebranded EigenLayer on their Twitter name to Eigen Cloud. And basically what they're positioning for is a next generation platform for creating and running verifiable apps, services, and AI backed by crypto's infrastack. So basically what's happening here is that EigenLayer is going to leverage the Ethereum restaking TVL that they have and that capital to provide decentralized security using the Eigen token for slashing, as well as eventually probably the ETH itself. Eigen Cloud is looking to try to make these infrastructures into impactful apps. Again, it's a very populist kind of narrative, right? Is that infra to apps and no revenue or unverifiable amounts of ROI to pure numbers, quantitative impact. And so, I think that this is the logical step for EigenLayer. I saw a tweet that was kind of describing it, how it was like, look, EigenLayer was doing the whole layer thing because that was what was popular, or at least like the name. But I think the way to actually think about EigenLayer more concretely is in this cloud. So I think like if you think about the traditional cloud infrastructure, you have you have like your basic cloud providers, and basically think about the level of transparency and verifiability that you would have with these. I think with EigenLayer, you get a different level of transparency based on and verifiability based on their kind of crypto stack. So that's exciting, and shout out to the team there. Looking forward to seeing what they can do. All right. Last but not least, before we have Seven come on, we have a Kraken Inc. L2 launching Inc. token. The question is, does one need another Inc. token? Do we need more L2 tokens? No, I'm not going to give them shit. What is cool, though, is that they are going to fight against Base in some capacity, right? Like, obviously, Kraken Inc. is fighting against Base's Base. Base is clearly winning. That's okay. Inc. is now going to launch a token, which makes a ton of sense for, if you think about like what we were talking about yesterday on the stream, it was like with both of the VCs, Robbie and Jonah, it was a lot about the verticalization of any sort of crypto companies, right? So, starting from the top down, Coinbase Wallet, Coinbase Exchange, Coinbase perpetuals, Coinbase Pro, Base the L2, and then all the way down to potentially like, Base a token. Think about Kraken in the same way. Kraken the exchange, Kraken the Inc. chain, Kraken custody and institutional. They were actually thinking about doing an IPO as well, and then Kraken Inc. Inc. chain, and then Inc. token all the way down. Again, anytime I'm seeing these types of content, I'm thinking verticalization at scale. Everyone's trying to own from the top of the stack to the bottom of the stack. And so when I think about it from like the Rollup perspective, right? It's like, okay, we have, Andy, Rob, team, the Rollup as like the top of funnel distribution. You bring it down, we have different like consulting offers, content offers, ad offers, but that's just like the middle of the funnel. I was talking to Yano from Blockworks, and they're really using like these conferences to try to sell their data and research, right? And so we're hosting a happy hour, a private dinner, and doing different events in the city next week as well. And like I'm just really trying to optimize for the top of funnel right now, and then thinking more and more about how to build the bottom of the funnel. And I think that's what this is a great example of. So I mean, look, I don't know how the market's going to receive this thing, because if you look at the charts of a lot of like OP, ARB, ZK, et cetera, it's really not looking great. And so I'm not sure how we generally are going to see the market react. But I think aside from whether the market is exhausted or not, I just think that Kraken's just trying to do everything that they can to verticalize their stack, and I think they might force Base's hand by doing this, but perhaps not. I don't think it's gotten nearly as much traction as some of the other L2s, but I do think that of all of them, these types of centralized exchange-based L2s are going to have more traction, because, like, for example, we saw Bybit launch their SexDex BuyReal thing on Solana either yesterday or the day before. We covered it, and this is really another example of like why that's probably going to perform better than any just random DEX. They have this massive distribution network, they have the exchange, they have the users, and they can direct them there. Same thing with Kraken. You have this massive exchange, you have these users, and you can direct them there. And so, look, we'll see what happens to the token, but I thought this was pressing enough news. And yeah, looking forward to having our first guest join, Steven. He should be here relatively shortly. A little bit of backstory about Steven. He's been investing in different AI companies for quite a while. He is the GP of 𝘗𝘳𝘠𝗪 Ventures, which is actually named after a famous wave in Portugal. And it's basically been a AI venture fund for a while. Steven's been doing investments since '97, and has quite a bit of a background in just overall AI investing and more. So looking forward to kind of just like seeing what he has to say. He was actually also a partner at Pantera, which I think is particularly interesting. And so we're going to get some thoughts on the state of AI from him, and more. So I think he'll just be joining in a sec. While we're waiting, I'm going to read the timeline like usual, and wait till he joins. So let's give it just one sec. All right, let's play Andy reads the timeline. $100 million liquidated from the crypto market in the past 60 minutes. Sick. App builders are by far the most, from Nerolf, app builders are by far the most in-demand people in crypto right now. For chains, it became even more difficult to find than raising money. That's a pretty good take. Oh, man. JD Vance with a tweet about Iran. Gotta love that. Ooh, new Arthur Hayes, assume the position, is a discussion on the stablecoin mania brewing in public stock markets. If you want your bowel movements to stay regular, read on. If a stablecoin issuer or tech provider cannot distribute through a crypto exchange or social media giant or legacy bank, they have no business. Wow, that is intense. All right, guys, just waiting on Steven still. He should be here in a sec. Yeah. Will ZK be bigger than blockchain? Question from Million. All right, reading the timeline here. Okay, this is going to be interesting. Uh, all right, here we go. So looks like Ubix launched a $10 million round. All right, here we go. Just in, Treasury Secretary Bessent says crypto stablecoins can lower government borrowing costs and reduce national debt. Okay. A thriving stablecoin ecosystem will drive demand from the private sector for U.S. treasuries, which back stablecoins. This newfound demand could lower government borrowing costs and help rein in the national debt. Wow, these guys are bulled up on stablecoins. I think they see stablecoins as a very clear way to extend the US dollar hegemony and just extend the broad power of the dollar, which I think is particularly interesting. Introducing Nansen points today, season 1. Um, all right, guys, just give us a sec here. We're having some troubles on the backside here. Oh, the sloths are on a Klob TV episode. Gotta love it. Yeah, we're just having some technical difficulties with the guest here, guys. No worries though. Um, and we're just gonna keep reacting to the timeline. Let's see, what else do we have here? Sometimes when you lose something you love, e.g. money at 20, you feel like life is over. Then you lose the same thing at 40 and you know that life is over for the 69th time and you keep going. That's funny. Yeah. All right. Well, looks like that second guess is not going to make it, which is okay. The first guess is not going to make it, which is okay. But we're just going to keep reacting to the timeline until main shows up, which shouldn't be too much longer. And yeah. So let's see. Perfect. Perfect. All right, let's see what other tweets we got on the timeline here. 98% chance from Watcher Guru the Federal Reserve leaves interest rates unchanged tomorrow, according to Polymarket. I think that's pretty consensus, to be honest. Makes sense. Let's see. Tim Clancy posting a photo of the Central Intelligence Agency letter and saying Ethereum saved his life instead of joining the CIA. It's pretty based. Ooh, yesterday, the Flashbots guys, Bert, launched their MEV thesis, their MEV and the limits of scaling thesis. Check that out at Bert C. Miller's Twitter. Super interested. All right, guys. Yeah, we had some technical difficulties all over the place today. One of the guests did not want to join the stream for various reasons, but it's all good. We're gonna have TraderMain up next, and we'll be talking about everything that he is seeing in the markets. Kind of a rough day to do so, but that's all good. And yeah, get started. Nick Carter says most of my crypto trading group chats just talk about stocks now. The new meta is literally just stocks. My goodness. FOMC, the Fed will decide on interest rates today. Will the Fed finally cut rates? Actually, I think that might have just been happening right now. Or actually, isn't it tomorrow? No, it's tomorrow. These guys are wrong. Cointelegraph, wrong. Let's see. 𝘱𝑭𝘐𝘳𝘐 on base. It's pretty random, but interesting. Actually, I want to pull this up. So this is an interesting setup here where I just want to talk about what I'm seeing on 𝘬𝘳𝘐𝘳. So if you scroll down, you'll see the main tweet here from the 𝘬𝘳 founder, which I think people were getting a little bit upset about with the InfoFi meta, where basically there was a lot of encouragement for just like slop and different kind of BS on the 𝘬𝘳 algo, and basically like what they've done is they've rolled out upgrades to their algorithm that focuses on posts that only mention rewards or ranking without providing any insight or commentary on the product. Project will no longer earn mindshare. I think that's obviously good. Reduce the default max weekly mindshare contributing tweets to prioritize quality over quantity, with teams still being able to customize. I think that's important as well. I feel like people were just like spamming these boards. Like I've unfortunately stopped looking that much at the 𝘬𝘳 boards and just being like, well, I don't really want to use these 𝘬𝘳 boards if this is going to be, the case where these random accounts with little pickup are the main, winners of this InfoFi meta. Further crackdowns on engagement and group farming. Yeah, I think that's probably been happening at large. And Yeah, fair mechanism for loyalty, boosting consistent long-term alignment without penalizing wider participation. So, I think generally speaking, this is the right idea. And, we should see that basically less spam of tweets, um, and, and more. So if we can just scroll up a bit on the tweet here, you'll actually see, what Abi's take was. And I think that Abi had the right tweets. So he's saying like, look, you need real insight, like, commenting on some sort of open, if you just scroll up a bit more, um, to the tweet itself, that you can see real insight based on the actual like monetization mechanism, or some sort of real attribution to the product. Loyalty counts as well. Consistently posting about projects boosts your score, and yeah, they're basically filtering out spam, being too loud, versus actually providing any sort of real value to these teams. So, look, I think this was always the potential downfall of this kind of InfoFi setup, but I'm glad to see that now we have the team of Kaido kind of pushing forward and making the necessary changes, and I hope to see more of that going forward. So, looking forward to that. Um, Up next, there's actually some other interesting news that is came out of the space as of recent, which is around this actually idea of the high performance privacy first collabs. So I think this is worth talking about briefly, where there are now, with the launch of Celestia's private DA using Succinct, Hibachi has introduced the Win upgrade, which is pulling up on the screen now, and basically right now, this kind of hibachi, or this club war thing, is pretty hot. There's a lot of conversation around clubs, around kind of what that setup is going to be. And so Hibachi's coming in and basically trying to do this in a private manner, and essentially just focus on only doing private based high frequency trading, perps and dexes. If you guys can recall, as of 2 weeks ago, James Wynn was getting liquidated on chain, and basically he was doing it all in public. And I think that's why he was having those issues, was because, well, as soon as you post anything in public, you can actually see where your liquidation is, where you're going wrong. And so, he's trying to change his mind after getting liquidated for 100 mil, and is now probably sad. So you look at Hibachi with their new high performance Win upgrade, and I think this is something that is interesting. Another thing that got on my feed today was from Hasib. He went back and forth with me a little bit about his kind of prediction with this AI slop stuff. So I'm gonna get it up on the screen in a second here, but you can actually see that basically what Hasib did on our show, like in January, and then put out, like prior to coming on the show, he put out a tweet about it. But he wrote that he thinks novelty and market eagerness continues through 2025, but he thinks that everyone is going to have a sudden reversal around chatbots, that they'll become so ubiquitous that people will get turned off by them. Sentiment will reverse, seeing stories of their favorite human KOLs losing their livelihoods will kindle a kind of class consciousness. Users will start discriminating in favor of human KOLs, even if their content is less consistent. And so I put out this tweet earlier as well above, saying like, look, if you click on my tweet there, you can see what kind of what started this. But I tweeted the AI slop reply guys have gotten out of control. I'm blocking 20 plus AI slops per day here. Please help, Elon. And if you scroll up, you can see some of those tweets there. And it's funny, I think that tweet on the bottom is also slop. And I also took a screenshot. If you scroll up to the top tweet here, what you'll see is that first tweet, and then is me screenshotting somebody else's saying, look, like literally the biggest load of garbage. So I just thought Hasib was completely spot on with this. And I felt like he was actually going to be, he was vindicated in the sense that, well, I'm tired of the slop. He's tired of the slop. Everyone's tired of the slop. And I think that this entire AI meta has really changed the way that people perceive it and want to participate in it when it's just purely kind of like, I don't know. It's just like there's nothing productive coming of it, and all of your tweets on Twitter are just kind of spammy, and it's just not great for the program. Another cool tweet here that I found that I'll bring up on the screen is from Mark Zeller, a good friend of the show, and kind of from back in the day on Aave, and Plasma has just deposited $1 billion of stable coins into Aave. So this is part of their pre-deposit campaign. Veda Labs, Plasma. Well, I think Veda Labs has basically like been the team and the infrastructure that has provided the infrastructure to allow this, and then Plasma has gone up and deposited several $100 million of USDT and USDC on chain. And so this is the first billion of Plasma's pre-deposit campaign. And then we will see what happens on the next billion coming. I think they will maybe open it up for a total of 2 billion, but that's still kind of yet to be seen. And I'm looking forward to kind of understanding and learning about exactly how much they plan to do. Another really cool thing that happened that I think we hinted towards is this from our friends from Blockworks. So I'm going to pull that up as well. And this is part of the trend that we spoke about with Bybit and Mantle. Basically, Bybit has launched their buy real DEX on chain, but I think the core trend here is what I was describing yesterday, which is that the DEX sex fight and dominance is going to be it's going to flip, and I think we're getting closer than ever. For the first week of June, DEXs did more volume than Binance, which is huge. I assume Hyperliquid is going to be taking a big part of this, and also PancakeSwap. You can see in the comments people are memeing Hyperliquid for being a DEX, which is classic C node. Gotta love that. And yeah, I think this is a massive step and something that we should be generally excited about as the space progresses on, because I think that what we're going to see is more and more actual people coming on chain and using DEXs versus just using centralized exchanges. And I think this is while we're all fighting about the cloud wars or, who's going to have the strongest, DEX or use case, et cetera. Well, what we should be really thinking about is actually how to, get more and more people on chain. So that's what I'm excited about with regards to this tweet. And yeah, looking forward to seeing that. Yep. A couple more tweets to react to on the timeline. We had some pretty interesting news. We covered Eigen. We covered the Ink token. We did not cover the pump.fun protocol went down, which I thought was interesting. Here we had, just their Twitter account went down. Here we had EigenLayer. If you pull that tweet up, another one. Here we had A16Z announces today from Eigen that they are going to that they have committed an additional $70 million in Eigen tokens with a lockup over the past couple of years. The Eigen team, let's go ahead and pull this tweet up here. The Eigen team is actively working, and so A16Z did a massive investment into Eigen as of, I don't know, I think it was like in their most recent round. And so now they've actually doubled down again. I don't know if this is some sort of like OTC deal. They didn't post the terms, but I assume there was some sort of discount with a lockup. I couldn't really see anything in the comments there, but look, I think that this is exciting for Eigen and for A16Z. And I think it's something that they should both be, excited about. And look, I mean, I think a lot of these tokens have gotten pretty bad kind of feedback, right? Like if you look at the charts of a lot of these like VC tokens, and I mean, even if you look at the comments, right, it's pretty negative. And so I think that having the ability to actually get A16Z to commit to getting involved at that type of scale with that type of capital, I think that's something that Eigen should be proud of, and that A16Z should be hopefully excited about if they got a good deal. So, all right, guys, I think we finally have our next guest coming up, which is exciting. We've got TraderMain coming soon. So we're gonna get him up. And yeah, I've been following Main's content for a while. He's been quite active on the TA side of things for many years. I think I first saw him in 2017 when he was doing a lot of TA. He has pretty funny memes for, I don't know, people asking about his neck or his trades, and he's got a specific charting ability. So yeah, looking forward to kind of getting his take on the markets. I don't think he's too happy about the war today and kind of how the markets are shaping up, but that's all good. We'll get him up here in a sec, and we'll get started with the first guest segment for today. Thanks for bearing with us through that first segment. I had a little bit of an interesting hiccup, but all good. So as far as what we're going to talk to Main about today, some of the craziest stories he's seen on Breakout, his thoughts on Murad, Gainzy, Ansem, how he's trading the current situation in this kind of heavy headline environment, what he thinks about the mercy of narratives, and more, his contrarian takes, and generally what he's seeing in the market. So looking forward to having him on here in a couple of seconds. And in the meantime, hope you guys enjoyed that new intro video today. I thought it was pretty well done. Just gonna give it a couple secs here until we get going. And we should be up and running. First question for Main. Do you think Hyperliquid or ForkCoin has more room to run from now until the end of the year? No, it's not going to be the first question. Fellow Canadian, he is as well. I don't know if you guys knew, but my parents were born in Canada, and I was a Canadian originally with 2 passports, but ended up just having my American passport now. When I told Main that, he was like, "Oh wow, they luckily got away." And I was like, "Yeah, my parents did. Unfortunately, I didn't. But I am in the States, so I guess I kind of did." All right, guys, he should be up in 1 sec, and then we'll get this thing rolling. Hope you guys are surviving the market today. It's not that bad if you zoom out. Let's see what some of the latest stuff on Main's profile is. Gonna be a long day. Unconditional surrender. Bro said we won't take him out for now. Wow, Breakout's crushing it. I didn't even realize this. This is sick. Breakoutprop.com. Oh wow, so it's like it's basically helping early traders get started, and it's optimizing for essentially really good execution for traders. Very sick. All right, we're gonna get him up in just a sec, guys. Thanks for the patience. It's been a bit of a bumpy start today with the situation there on the first guest, but we vibe, we hang out, we'll figure it out, and it'll all be fine. All right, Main's coming up now. Looking forward to having him up, and yeah, well, like I said, I've been following his content for quite a while, and it's been good to have. It'll be good to have him on the stream. And I have some fun questions for him, man.
Okay. You betcha. Yes, Maine. Hello.
Man, appreciate you coming on.
Hey, man. How are you?
It's a bit of a setup here. Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Yeah, it's been a hectic morning, hasn't it?
Yeah, I know. Every morning I seem to wake up and I go on Walter Bloomberg and I figure out what kind of day it's about to be.
What kind of day is it today, then?
I mean, kind of a shitty one, I guess. I don't know. Like Trump is just, tweeting out some mad stuff about what's going on in the Middle East. I hate trading in these kind of environments where there's like tons of headline risk. So I'm kind of just like hanging out. We'll see how FOMC resolves tomorrow and then maybe things chill out a little bit.
Yeah. You know what's funny is that while all the tariff stuff was happening, I had my aunt and my cousin down from Ontario, and they were in the worst headspace about Trump and America that I've ever heard anybody, and I just can't imagine that it's getting any better now. From your side of things, bro.
Yeah, like a lot of people are obsessed with what's going on the global stage, and I get it. We're on Twitter all day. Like we get this kind of constant doom loop of like just the worst information in the world all the time. I genuinely don't think humans were designed to be able to consume this kind of content from all over the planet all at the same time. You know what I mean? Like you used to like have to wait and like you used to get the paper and you would see what was happening in your city. And that was like the extent of your like knowledge. And maybe there was one news channel that was like giving you delayed global events, but like to know what's going on all over the world all the time is crazy to me. But as a Canadian, like my life hasn't really changed that much under Trump, under Biden, under Obama. Like it's basically been the same. Like if I'm online, I have periods where I think the world is ending and where I think it's where I think everything's, sunshine and roses, but like day-to-day life is like not really that different.
Yeah, man. I mean, we are seeing on Twitter real time how like you're seeing these supersonic missiles boom, and then you see the markets react, and then Trump does that on Truth Social, and then that happens. It's just like it. I try to zoom out. Like I was following your stuff in like late 16, early 17, all the way into 18. I think you kind of really started doing TA in like mid 2017 to 18, and so I've been in the space like 8ish years, and dude, like it's been harder to like zoom out in the last 3 months than it has been. I feel like since like 21. Like I've just been like it's like tick watching, man.
Yeah, we can't lose the plot. Like Bitcoin's at 100 grand. Like, like institutions are here. The government is pulling back any form of kind of regulation and scrutiny that there seemed to have been. Coinbase is public. Other companies are going public. There's acquisitions happening left and right. Like it's a good time to be in crypto. It's just like, yeah, if you're looking on these micro time frames, it seems like it's like doom and gloom. And then you back to euphoria and back when in reality, price hasn't really moved in the last month.
Dude, I mean, it has for some assets, but for a lot of it, it's been like altcoins bleeding, people getting upset about that, and then wondering when all season, kind of how that's going to play out, which has been tough, I think, for a lot of people. And then just kind of, I mean, look, if you haven't been holding Fartcoin or Hyperliquid or a couple others, like you've been kind of getting screwed. So
Yeah, that's actually a much more interesting conversation, in my opinion. Is like the altcoin cycle this go around so far has been quite difficult. Like the rotations between coins have been unbelievably fast. Where it used, you remember that chart where it was like, okay, Bitcoin goes, then large caps, then mid
yeah,
caps,
man.
then it was like Secrets of Crypto used to post it
Yeah,
all the time.
secrets. Yeah.
And like that used to be kind of like the order of operations. And it just doesn't seem to be the case this go round. It's like, yeah, if you're not in whiff, then fart coin, then house coin for 10 minutes, and then this coin for like 1 day, like you've missed every rotation. I still hold out hope that there is an alt season, and it's when Bitcoin dominance rolls over, which just hasn't happened yet. But there's a world where it just looks different because of how many coins there are now. There's only so much money. And if you look on things on the aggregate, like maybe, last cycle we had Sheeb and Bonk, and like, some of these coins went to like tens of billions. And it's like, okay, well, nothing got there this cycle, so maybe it hasn't happened yet. But it's like, okay, but all of the AI coins combined went to 15 billion. Like if you take GOAT and 𝘬𝘁𝘁 and AI, like if you add them all up on aggregate, that kind of had an alt season. There was the animal meme alt season. So I don't know, man. It's been a funny one, but maybe there's still a period of time where Bitcoin dominance will roll over and we'll get this fabled alt season while waiting for.
Well, so on that note, then I'm curious what you think about this kind of thesis around movement coins, right? Murad's been pushing SPX 6900 to like absolutely no end. He is nonstop in everybody's comments, just absolutely going ham. Do you think like he's thinking about this in the right way? Like is Murad going to be right in the sense that like you need this cult of people that don't care about selling? You orient around one token, and this is the way to outperform asset dispersion, or is Murad just kind of lost the plot?
I mean, I think his wallet's at 55 million right now. So I don't know if I'm the right, maybe right now he seems right. So I have a few thoughts on Murad. Number one, if I held a coin, there's no better bag worker in the game right now than Murad. I mean, he's on TikTok. Everywhere I go, I see that slick back hair, and he's like, World War III is coming. This is why you need to buy meme coins. Like, that's the next video that's coming from him, I'm sure. AI is going to take your job. That's why you need to buy this meme coin that I specifically own 2% of. I think you've got to take it with a grain of salt, because one, the coins that he is the biggest proponent of, he owns a ton of it.
Of course.
And his wallet is tracked. If he started to, he's like, no one's going to sell. It's like, buddy, if you sold a single coin, everyone would sell. Like, they are all tracking your wallet. And I guarantee a bunch of people are copy trading him to the point where if he sold any of his allocations there. So to summarize, I guess, will he be right? Maybe. You will never make money if you don't sell. So as much as the idea of like, you want to be in the coin that they have the diehard holders, great. Because those are the people you need to exit into, because you don't make any money until you cash out eventually. Like, you have to at some point cash out. So there's something to be said there. It is a cult. I get that. But like, I think what people get confused is like, it's going to go up forever. It isn't. Nothing has, not even Bitcoin goes up forever. Like, it has its bear market. So as long as you can be like, hey, I'm going to play this narrative, it's got a strong community. Sure. I'm on the complete opposite camp. I'm in the believe in nothing camp. I'm a profit maxi. So we're just diametrically opposed there. But I mean, right now, when he's right, he looks like a genius. And then when he's wrong, he looks like, an idiot. So as long as you're like, hey, I'm here for the ride, but I realistically know I have to sell at some point, there's some value. And if you're going to ride his coattails, I mean, it's working good right now.
Yeah. I mean, I just think that like the story that he tells is particularly compelling for people. But it's like the call to action for buy the meme coin is, I mean, that is what it is. But I think that in the context of young people being screwed out by the older generation, AI, et cetera, like, it's a very believable story.
It's like the roaring kitty.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
Yeah,
it's like, hey, like, this is sticking it to the man. But if you actually do the research, a lot of people lost money on GME. most people didn't make money because they never sold. Like they believed forever, and then eventually, you get cooked. So as long as you're willing to take profit at some point, I think it is. And I don't disagree with his message. Like the first half of his videos, I'm locked in. I'm like, yeah, dude, AI's coming. Like the wealth inequality gap is growing. It's going to be harder to have social mobility. And the solution is to buy this meme coin. That's where I'm like, okay, well, maybe it's like I should get a skill that can't be replaced by AI, or maybe I should, find ways to diversify my income and make more money. Or sure, put it all in a meme coin.
All right, the other kind of main character now is Gainzy, who's been getting bombed in the shelters. I'm curious, like, what your relationship with Gainzy is, and how would you characterize his approach to trading versus somebody like Ansem?
So I've known Gainzy for a long time. I consider us friends. We've hung out in person several times, and he's so funny because like Gainzy to me is like CT lore because he's been around for so long. Like there's been different periods of time where he was the main character. He had his like Rollbit, like evil gambling saga. And now he's the hairy-armed guy who was on streaming on PumpFun, and now he's that same hairy-armed guy streaming on PumpFun who happens to be living in a war zone. So I just think it's obviously, God willing, he's okay and nothing happens to him. That would be terrible. But it is like, it is kind of funny in the worst kind of way. And he gets it too. He's playing into it. It's not like he's not aware. He's the one, leaning into it as he should. I mean, he can't leave. So, I mean, you might as well lean into it and stream from the shelter, I guess. But I don't even know how much Gainzy trades anymore, to be honest with you. Like Gainzy came up around the same time as me a couple cycles ago, heavy on the leverage trading. But I don't think he trades very much anymore. I think he's much more of a I know he does angel investing now, but I don't think he's like super actively trading, whereas like Ansem kind of had this meteoric rise. Like I've known Ansem for a long time, and we used to chat charts like a lot back in the day, and he learned some stuff from me, and he used to post these like really thoughtful
yeah, I remember
write-ups being like, here's my like monthly, weekly, daily 4-hour breakdown of all these different charts. And he still does that occasionally, but he became the meme coin guy, right? And I think it started kind of with Whiff, and he's become, met up with Kanye. I mean, it's been like, wild. They're both like become kind of famous for different reasons and main characters for different reasons. But I mean, I think Ansem's a great guy. We're friends as well. I think he gets a bad rep, like for how much terrible stuff and scammy stuff goes on in the meme coin space with some of these like FNF groups, like the Hayden Davises of the world, these guys who are buying into a coin and are dumping them on their sidewalls. To think Ansem is this like big bad evil guy because he just like would tweet out a coin that he liked and he probably invested in. The hate on Ansem went a little bit too hard, but it's been very funny to see them both kind of have their main characters' journeys this cycle.
Yeah, man. I mean, it's funny from the lens of seeing the characters develop for like 6-7 years versus if you just came into the space in the last like 2-3 or even just in the last year or so. You don't really have the same perspective, right? And it's just, I don't know, it's
Dude,
funny to see all the accounts.
We've lost lore.
I know, right?
Like there's guys who like don't even post him, or like people don't even know who Angelo was. People think Kobe is like some washed up just like dude who shit posts. I'm like, you don't even know, man. Like you don't even know what you're missing. But there's also like, I'm a big fan of some of the new guys. Like I love Thread Guy. I think Thread Guy's awesome for the space. And as much as some people like to hate on like Frank the Gods and Thread Guy and Rasmer and all these guys, I'm like, dude, you got to remember, I'm gonna be 35 soon. Like this is the new generation, man. We're old now. We're washed up, bro.
Dude, I think the entire age of crypto people is just obviously as time passes, but it's just progressively getting to be a bit older. Like the entire industry.
When I got into it, I was my mid to early 20s, right? Yeah, and like that's who these guys speak to. And I kind of forget now. It's like, oh, I'm not that. Like, I don't know how old you are, but like the biggest thing for me was you know, when you like watch a movie or you leave a review on something, it asks you to select your age group. I'm
Yeah.
now in like the 34 to 40 plus group. Whereas before it's like, okay, you're between like 19 and 30 or whatever it was. I'm like, damn, I'm now in like the old man group. It's kind of sad.
Yeah, I'm still in the Zoomer group, but you know,
Oh, you're so lucky.
it's been a long run. All right,
Enjoy it while it lasts, bro. It ends so fast.
I wanted to understand how you started Breakout, because from my perspective, you were just kind of yeah, as I said, you, Sherpa, Panama, some of those guys were crushing it on leverage trading back in the day, and like that's how I started. I just fucking spun up a BitMEX account and was just like, dude, I'm gonna rip it. It didn't work out, but that was kind of my perception, and then you rolled out into Breakout, which now a prop firm. It has execution. You can bring traders in. Maybe just like, what's the lore there? And then I'm curious some of the craziest stories that you've had from traders there.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. So Breakout, we launched a little over 2 years ago. This wasn't a new business model. So prop firms have existed in TradFi for a very long time, but the model got brought online like 6 to 7 years ago. And there's a couple big prop firms like FTMO and Top Step where you could trade futures or Forex. And the idea here is you're leveraging someone else's money. That's kind of the TLDR. And I used to trade on FTMO back in the day because in Canada here, at least, you couldn't open a brokerage account without 25K. And I didn't have 25 grand at the time all these years ago to open that account. But with a prop firm, I could trade a $25,000 account for like a couple $100.
Yep.
And so I knew what prop firms were from back then. And then over the last like 3-4 years, it's proliferated massively where all of these prop companies have opened up. And there's a whole section of Twitter that is like prop Twitter. Like there's crypto Twitter, there's prop Twitter. And I caught wind of it and I'm like, oh, damn, like this is like very interesting. I remember trading a prop firm. I get it because it's leverage, really. Like these guys like, hey, I managed 200 grand, but it's not my money. But if I make 10%, I made 20 grand. And I was like, I wonder if someone's doing this for crypto. That's really how it started. And I did some research and I just found that there was no real option out there for someone who wanted the advantages of prop, which is access to capital, but they wanted to have all of the upside of trading on a centralized exchange. So some of these prop companies offered crypto, but it wasn't like real crypto. So like the spread on Bitcoin might be $200 because it's an afterthought. Whereas I'm like, listen, if you're trading on Bybit or Blowfin or whatever, like the spread is pennies. Like it's not $100. That's unsustainable. Yeah. And they offered Bitcoin and Litecoin and XRP. Well, it's like, okay, people want to trade fart coin. You know what I mean? They don't want to just trade the majors. So that's what we set out to do. Is I wanted to bring this kind of novel, unique trading product where we're not a centralized exchange. We're not a DEX. We're a completely different product. But it's a very good tool for one, if you're a good trader, props fantastic because it's leverage.
Yeah,
you can get a 100K account for $1,000. We offer 5x leverage on Bitcoin and ETH. So for $1,000, if you pass your valuation, you can open a $500,000 position, and you paid $1,000 to get to that point. So the risk reward, the leverage is there. For a beginner trader, this is a really good tool where if you're not quite ready to put your paycheck on the exchange and get liquidated, but you're beyond paper trading. So you're like, okay, I want to have some skin in the game, but I'm not necessarily ready to put $5 grand on Bybit where you stand to potentially lose that entire $5 grand. With us, a $5 grand account is $60. Yeah. So if you blow that account up, you've lost $60 instead of the entire paycheck, right? So we went out, we built this, and it's been crazy meteoric rise. Like I don't even think we're that well known on crypto Twitter even really yet. Like we've been doing our thing. Obviously, having my brand behind it has brought up a lot of notoriety and kind of initial, market awareness, but I still don't think crypto Twitter fully understands what prop is and how crazy it can be. I mean, we've had guys who have, taken out 100K. Like we've paid them out 100 grand. They paid $1,000 to get that account. That's like meme coin levels of ROI. We've had people who have run up, like we have a guy who I think longed Bitcoin at 60K and just sat in that trade for 3 months and then closed it when Bitcoin hit 100K and took a huge payout. So we have a lot of traders who are like absolutely crushing, and it's fun to see. Like when we're crypto natives, it's me, it's Crypto Cred, it's Abe Trade. So like when Trump coin came out, we added it immediately. When Chill House was popular, you could trade Chill House, and then when Chill House died, we took it off. But like we wanted to keep our ear to the street, say, hey, not only can you trade with prop capital, but you could be trading the stuff that is on trend right now. And it's been a lot of fun, man. It's been a completely different journey running a business as opposed to just trading full time. And it's been a blast. We've grown like crazy. We're continuing to grow, and I think we're going to see a lot more of people start to choose prop as just another option. It's not meant to replace Hyperliquid or Bybit. It's a completely different tool, way for you to get access to money.
Yeah, man. I mean, it was very popular in the Forex days. When I was in university, I had a couple buddies who did that, and they did very well. And now that you bring it up, I have not heard of anything like this in crypto prior to seeing what you guys were doing. So I think it's definitely a gap in the market. I also resonate with the fact that I spend maybe 5% of my time on the markets, right? I just have like my core positions, and 95% when I'm working on the business. And it's definitely a whole different headspace. It's like when you're trading, you're like single. You're like you're just kind of flip things, have fun, do whatever, make money. And then on the business, it's like you're in a relationship. It's like every day you're waking up and you're committing to this one thing, single asset, single kind of vision. And I mean, perhaps that's not the easiest analogy, but I think you pick up.
It's also not that instant gratification, right? Where it's like you make a trade, you make money. Like the business, things you're doing today might not pay off for like a year. But it's a lot of fun, and I recommend everyone in crypto like has multiple sources of income. Like, especially once you're in this for a very long time. Like, first of all, most people are going to lose money trading. Like, let's be honest. You're better off. I would have way more money if I just held all the Bitcoin that I had.
Dude, I was thinking the same thing.
Like, it's disgusting. I'm like, oh, let me try and outperform the greatest performing asset of all time. That seems like a really good idea. But like you got to diversify, right? And running a business and being an entrepreneur is one way to do that. Like trading is a business. I have Breakout as a business. My brand is a business, and there's so many things that you can do in this space, and it's so much fun. And that's why I tell people, I'm like, dude, you got to start posting. Like, man. People always ask me, I'm like, dude, just start posting. Like, you followed me back in the day. I was live streaming to 3 people. Now I'm live streaming to 3,000. Like, and it just started because I just started posting, and by building that brand, obviously I traded, but I was able to do things like launch Breakout, which was successful because of my brand. And so you got to be willing to get out there and create content, and like say what you're going to say, and ignore all the people making fun of your, I think, normal sized neck, and just post your stuff.
Oh man, a couple more things for you on the market side of things and some of your preferred platforms and such. One on the market side, obviously, Hyperliquid and Fartcoin have been the leaders in terms of just asset appreciation over the last 6-8 months. Do you think Hype or Fartcoin has more room to run from now until the end of the year?
That's a good question. I'm going to say Fartcoin, simply because
I can't take it seriously, dude.
I know, dude. So like we have Fartcoin has been the top traded asset at Breakout for the last 3 months. It's like one of the top 5. It's like Bitcoin, Ethereum, Solana. Then it's like Hype, Fartcoin are usually like 4 and 5. Like, and so like in our investor updates, we have to put in that Fartcoin is like highly, it's just the most hilarious thing.
This is a real industry,
but it's unbelievable. So I think Fartcoin for a few reasons. One, I don't think we've had a Bitcoin dominance pullback yet, like an actual correction there that could lead to an alt season. And 2, I think a large part of the hype trade is like Hype's at what, 40 billion. Let's assume that I think Binance, maybe let's call BNB 500 billion or whatever. That's kind of accurately priced. I'm not saying hype can't go up more, but hype right now makes up for about 10% of perps OI relative to like Binance. So I think that, 40 to $50 billion valuation for hype makes a lot of sense. Can it go higher? Of course. Long term, hype is here to stay. Hype is a business. The buyback mechanic is genius. You're betting on the exchange making money and printing the same way if you own BNB, you're betting on CZ and Binance being successful. And if you look at BNB, like it's had bear markets, but it's outperformed Bitcoin and most altcoins. I think hype fits really well as a proxy to that. But I think Fartcoin, just because it has so much goddamn mind share, could have one of those crazy runs where it goes from like whatever it's at now, $1. Alt season happens, it goes to 10, and then it's gone forever. It's a fart in the wind. So,
no, I mean, I think with bull runs and with fundamentals comes ceilings, and in bear markets you get floors for those assets. But if there is no fundamentals, there's theoretically not a ceiling, which I think is silly to actually say, but that's in practice how this has consistently played out with every sort of bull run.
Yeah, people want alt season. The thing about alt season, it happens at the end.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
So everyone's like, I want it. It's like, if you want it, like this is the harbinger of doom. Like this is right before everything implodes. We get like a silly alt season where things go nuts for like 6 weeks. And I'm just not quite ready. I'm hoping the 4-year cycle sticks and that we've got until, November, December of this year. That's kind of what I'm hoping. So.
Got you. All right. Last couple of questions for you, buddy. Other than yourself, who are the most locked in traders on the timeline right now? Is there anybody that you're really getting alpha from, or that you're enjoying their charts and have a good hit rate?
Yeah. There's a few. So I always love Loma. Loma's one of my boys. I think he's one of the best. I think 𝘁𝘁𝗫𝗏𝗍𝘓 is also an absolute killer. Zoran, after, having his blow up not that long ago, when Zoran's dialed, he's dialed. So I love watching Zoran's charts. TraderMain, I think, is another one who's really good high time frame kind of guy. But he just posted that he's only 25, and now I like him less. I was like, dude, I thought you were older. I thought you were so wise and old, all these young guns. Obviously, I like Dr. Axe, Axios Capital. I think he's one of, not as many trading takes, but I think he's one of my favorite pages to watch. And listen, the OG, bro, Don Alt. Love him or hate him, the German prick, self-proclaimed. I don't call him that. He calls himself a prick. But Don Alt is one of the best traders on the platform. And Credible Crypto, another fantastic trader.
So which one of those has the best looking charts, and who has the worst looking charts?
Oh, gosh, that's easy. Credible Crypto has the worst because he uses 𝘱𝑉𝑎ve, and I'm just a hater, even though I know it works. I think Don Alt's charts are clean, man. Just like couple lines, couple boxes, and yeah, he's an OG, clean charts. I like how he operates.
Man, I appreciate your time, man, and for coming out.
Of course.
I hope you have a good rest of your day. We got FOMC tomorrow. Any thoughts on kind of positioning for that?
I think positioning into it is always a little bit dicey. But no news is good news. Like, I don't think we're expecting rate cuts.
Yeah.
So as long as there's not something that's like super, super bearish in the way that, Powell is speaking, I think that's probably for the best. But like, again, I just like, to me, this is as low probability of conditions as you can get. Is FOMC tomorrow, and at any point Israel and Iran could, bomb each other out of existence.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's better out just zooming out and be like, hey, the high time frame chart still looks really good. Let's not get chopped up in this kind of low time frame noise. I think gun to my head, if you get a sweep under 100K on Bitcoin, I think that might be a buy.
Beauty. All right, man. See you soon, man. Appreciate you coming on.
Appreciate it, man. Have a good one.
Be easy. Peace. All right. That was a fun segment. I don't spend that much time talking to leverage traders in the liquid markets. Also, yeah, I've just been following Main and those guys for quite a while. Have grown to become pretty good friends with Sherpa and Panama and Durden and some of those guys. And so they just have a completely different. Well, first of all, their bankroll is just it's evident that they've been around for 3 cycles and that they mastered the leverage trading game. And then second is they just have a different perspective on the markets and on kind of how they think about what's happening in the space. So yeah, that is that. Up next, we got Bobby from CoinFund, a prolific panel moderator amongst many other talents. So we'll get him up here and let's have a good chat. What's up, Bobby? How are you, man?
How's it going, Andy? Excited to be on. Love what you guys are doing with the show.
Yeah, I appreciate it, man. Things are good. Things are good. I haven't seen the sun in a couple of days, though. I've been in New York. I don't know if you're here, but it's been pretty rough.
Yeah, the cloud cover is killing me. We got a taste of summer, and now we've regressed for sure.
Are you coming to the permissionless festivities next week?
I will be around permissionless. Always one of the better conferences of the year, I think. So I'm super excited for it.
Nice. Yeah, I'm stoked. I think it should be good. And then I think a lot of people are going to be packing up and going to ECC as well, which should be fun as well. So.
And I was checking the weather forecast. That's going to be a beautiful time out there. So
yeah, man.
We're all going to be coming back. Hopefully markets are up and we're all looking a little tan. How about that?
Yeah, man. All right. Well, I wanted to just get some of your insights from your latest kind of theses, thoughts around a couple of general things that have been trending in the space. One being revenue, pump.fun, just kind of like some of your work at CoinFund as well. But let's just start on the revenue side. So I put out a tweet saying, kind of jokingly, half jokingly, how long is this revenue meta going to last? So, less than 3 months, less than 6 months, less than a year, less than 2 years. It was pretty much barbelled. It was either like, Andy, you're an idiot. Like this is what every business has been built on for an entirety of the world, or like, oh, this is just a fad, blah, blah, blah. And so from the venture perspective, I imagine the way that you're looking at companies over the last 6 to 9 months has shifted as a result of the administration, being Trump and being kind of a bit more flexible with regards to things like tokenomics, and of course just like the success of Hyperliquid and how that model has been kind of just working. So maybe just a 6 to 9 month kind of recap as to like, all right, what you were seeing from founders, late last year into now this year, and kind of how your mental model for assessing, the profitability or the longevity of some of these, on-chain businesses are. Just kind of curious how you're thinking about it.
Yeah, let's talk about revenue. I think it's a really interesting question. Most of the people who I think have the conversation about revenue kind of overgeneralize, I would say, because in crypto, we've got all different kinds of assets. There's not just like kind of an equity company that is, generating ARR and you kind of value it that way. We also have this whole other classes of assets called layer ones. And most of them aren't like particularly revenue generating. And as a matter of fact, it would be very detrimental to them if they were clipping massive amounts of fees on a platform that's supposed to be like very high throughput and support all kinds of innovation. So for this class of tokens, like I don't think that the revenue meta will ever kind of be a factor for them, and you're going to continue to see valuation that revolves around a premium and potential developer growth. And then you kind of move into the middle ground between L1s and applications. That's kind of where Hyperliquid falls. You have this kind of like app L1 kind of structure where the revenue of the application on that L1 actually does matter, because that's kind of like what you're betting on. You're not betting on open innovation like you are in the L1 model. So for applications and for app chains like Hyperliquid, I'm super excited to see the revenue meta like coming into play. For a long time, I guess you could call it like growth mode. Like when a startup is in the early stages, there's that hilarious Silicon Valley quote where he's like, "Don't show revenue." Like,
it's bearish.
Once you start showing revenue, they're going to ask how much. And maybe we're at that point. Maybe it's like, okay, there are enough successful applications out there that we now want to see the revenue that you can actually produce. And I was poking around like Uniswap the other day. They're talking about the fee switch again, and kind of I think, as you start to see some applications come to maturity, you'll start to see pressure from the market to show revenue, to funnel that revenue back to token holders. And you mentioned kind of the regulatory framework briefly. In this industry, it's all tied together, right? the other reason not to show revenue in the past is you don't want to look like a security, and Gensler will come after you. So now we're starting to see some more kind of openness to different models from the regulators in the US at least. So I think it's kind of becoming a perfect storm where it might be the time where we start to see kind of applications that can show revenue and try to pass that back to token holders. And I think that's really exciting because whereas in the past, a lot of the liquid market investors who've got involved with some of these tokens are betting on the future, and that's great, right? Big upside for people who bet far in the future. But you're never going to see people like pile in like real meaningful size, like outside of crypto, like the hedge fund managers on Wall Street piling into a token like Hype. You're only going to see that if you have real like substantiated kind of growth. Which I think revenue is the best way to kind of speak of. So I'm excited. I think for those who can, it'll remain a meta for quite some time. And, we'll have to see how deep it really can go. If it can expand to L1s or not, we'll have to see.
Yeah, I mean, I think one interesting point that you brought up is with regards to kind of like the timing of basically either turning on a fee switch, you could call it like launching revenue. But I think a lot of these networks have, whether they don't have a moat or not a defensible enough one such that if they were to charge or were to turn on the fee switch that they would lose customers. Perhaps that's the case in some of the instances, but not in all of them. But anyhow, with that kind of framing, it begs the question of like, as a founder, as a protocol builder, as somebody running a business, is there a framework that can be adapted that you should use to know when to turn that on? Is there a user count, or is there a metric, or is there a way to think about like, when is it you've already achieved enough network effects and adoption that it's not too early to kind of, turn that on and potentially suffer some, short-term, variance in your customers, but long-term be able to then run a business, right? I think that's a hard question to answer.
Yeah, and super insightful that you're asking it, because I think, this is the kind of coaching that founders that we work with need for sure. They want to have this conversation. And I think the answer is definitely not that, turning on revenue switches and monetizing the business that you built right now makes sense for everyone. Yeah. The way that you assess that, sorry to be generalized, but like it has to be case by case basis.
Of course,
right?
Yeah, of course.
For some businesses, there are clear moats that you kind of accrue early on, right? For business, let's go very simple, like with a DEX, you have a liquidity moat, right? When you are able to, you get pools with more liquidity, you have less slippage, therefore a better experience. And you like very quickly kind of develop that moat. So for businesses like that, I think it makes sense to kind of relatively early kind of turn on those fee switches. I can think of, other examples where it may not make as much sense. Highly competitive things, like, for example, when I think about interoperability, I would say that is a very cutthroat industry. And if you start jacking up fees to move around capital throughout the ecosystem, I think you're going to very quickly bleed market share. So just like thinking critically about, what your actual like defensible moats are, and whether or not you can kind of use that to generate revenue for your token holders. Because the other kind of flip side of this coin is, we're not just turning on revenue for the sake of kind of getting rich here. There's actually like a really interesting flywheel of, we're talking about Hype. If Hype turning on kind of revenue and funneling it back to token holders, it also like kind of empowers or kind of enriches their community and creates more of a token moat around it. So there's actually a different, like a secondary layer to moats and monetization in crypto that I think is probably a little bit underexplored and novel to kind of traditional tech. So yeah, just coming into this conversation with your investors and your advisors, and being like really thoughtful about kind of what you have the leverage to do, and then kind of how can you use that to further accelerate the business that you're running, and kind of enrich the community that you created is I think the right approach.
Yep. Yeah. It's been it's funny how I think with the admin and Hype and just like this trend, like the entire way that I think people in the space are thinking has changed. like for the better. I saw a tweet that was like, what if these two things didn't happen? Then what, you know, like, and I mean, look, I mean, maybe it's also leading to less of the L1 premium, and maybe it's not so easy anymore. And maybe, like, you know, but it shows the maturation of the industry as a whole.
Yeah, I'd be really interested to do a little like post-mortem and try to like really deeply understand like when this change in sentiment did happen.
Yeah.
But I think we saw it for like a really long time. I think back to like, oh gosh, like AltLayer and Manta launching and kind of like kicking off the low float, high FDV meta.
Yeah.
And from there, I think that was probably the start of when people started to just get more critical about valuations of these tokens. Like maybe it doesn't make sense for me to buy into, who am I going to pick on? I don't know, like Polkadot at 100 bill on ICO day or whatever, you know? And maybe I want to, you know, feel a little bit more substantiated comfort in the assets that I'm holding. So you had that kind of high float or low float, high FDV meta. And then, you know, a few, you know, basically pump and hype came in and said like, okay, look at us. Like we can make you feel even better about the asset, you know? And I think that's like really healthy competition to like keep dragging forward into the future. So maybe one day I'll do that analysis and we can chop it up here.
All right, so pump. You brought up pump. I want to talk pump. I've been asking friends, VCs, funds, liquid guys, what their thoughts are. Not financial advice, Bobby's opinions, not CoinFund's opinions. Bullish or bearish pump at 4 bill? Like, what's the right way to think about that ICO, that token?
Trading up a little bit in pre-market.
Yeah,
but. No, I think this kind of plays right into the conversation we were just having. You know, if you believe in, in like traditional tech, we talk about like ARR and like, you know, ARR is more valuable, or like annualized revenue or annualized recurring revenue is more valuable to investors than kind of one-off revenue, because it's going to come back over 30 years and you can kind of recoup the value of your investment over time. So it's very clear already that Pump is a revenue generating entity and is able to do so like at an extremely high clip. And that should make you as an investor super excited. However, like it's up to each individual investor to decide whether or not like this is going to be recurring revenue into the future. And I think that's like basically what it comes down for me. If you, again, not financial advice, but if you came to me and said that this company is generating, you know, 500+ million in revenue over its short lifespan, it's going to continue to do that in the future, I'd be very excited about owning that asset. But do your own research and think about whether or not you think that's the case. And I think that's kind of how you make the call there.
All right. So a different asset thesis that I thought was particularly interesting here was around World. So your CEO, Jake, put out this either like a post or a tweet stating that basically he thinks that the idea behind World is that if you can widely distribute a digital asset, you can build a crypto that's bigger and more valuable than Bitcoin. I mean, I assume you could insert anything here. While it has been nearly 2 years since I made this claim, it may only be 1 or 2 years before World achieves this milestone. While Bitcoin has 750,000 daily active users, World has accumulated 1.7 million daily active users, over 2 times the largest cryptocurrency by market cap, thanks to its wide range of mini apps across gaming, payments, and DeFi. Is WorldCoin going to be bigger than Bitcoin? Is that like, what is, explain this kind of like daily active user, or perhaps like this like Metcalfe's law, like thinking around why this thesis applies to World, and just in general, that why the amount of users matters for crypto assets.
Yeah. Super high level here, right? For this thesis, there's actually like, I would argue that there's like 3 different theses as to like why CoinFund loves World. Super excited about the project. Have been back in 2020 and have continued to re-underwrite the project and the team. So that's kind of my preface.
You gotta love that.
But from a super high level, right? We're talking about like, why does the wide distribution of the World token make it interesting, right? And I think, you know, you have to have a little bit of a conversation about like, what is a currency and what makes a currency valuable to have that conversation, right? There's this kind of famous like Warren Buffett clip of him saying like, if I owned all of the Bitcoin in the world, it would be worth absolutely nothing to me. And I think that is like very true, right? The Bitcoin is only valuable if it's kind of widely distributed and therefore useful to me in, you know, transacting with others. So scan the eyeballs and verify the identities. There's a number of ways to do that at this point in the company's life cycle outside of just scanning eyeballs. But they're hell-bent on getting as many verified humans as possible onto this network. And with that, so I think we're at 13 million plus, eyeball scanned users and well over, I think 26, 27 million of, alternatively verified users. And, as they, spend the capital that they've, taken in from venture capital and liquid markets to onboard as much of the world as possible, you have this really interesting setup where world becomes this, very useful asset for transacting value. And then you kind of add on, 2 or 3 other theses about, like, in the age of AI, what does it mean to have, concrete knowledge of who is a human and who is not, and what are all, like, it's a totally different design space than we've ever seen before. And I'll tell you, like, briefly, like, that's my favorite part about investing, is like when something brings a new design space that developers can just kind of try things with. Like, one silly example is like no fees for humans on the world chain. Like, that's something that you couldn't try before, but you introduce this new technological substrate, and on top of that, let's see what we can build. So from the currency's perspective, they're going to go out and they're going to get 300 million. They're going to get hopefully 500 million to 1 billion people verified on this network. Every one of those people is going to have World in their wallet, just based on kind of like the airdrop onboarding strategy that they've employed. And from there, they're going to transact, which is going to create, an ecosystem for applications, for trading apps, and, a strong distribution through their front app store. So a lot of exciting things going on in the world ecosystem. Happy to dive into any of those threads deeper, but I think that's the lay of the land.
Yeah, man. I mean, looking at some of the investments that some of the larger funds in the space have done into World has also been particularly compelling. And then also just Sam Altman being there from the early days, right? And I don't think people really, thought about how big OpenAI was going to be back then, and kind of like the association. And now it's very clear. So that's nice. I mean, path dependencies are a very unique thing that I've learned in crypto investing specifically. Like, if just one thing happens, the investment goes great or poorly, and just a result of a consequential action in time that it's just like, it just happened.
Right. And this project being Sam's brainchild makes a ton of sense, because like in 2020, I'm not sure how many people were underwriting like AGI within this decade. And now I would say that a lot of people are thinking that AGI is coming in this decade. So, that's amazing. That's what we look for in founders. That's what drives the industry forward, is folks like that being able to see around the corner and, double down on their convictions and, build for that future. So I think that's basically what I see WorldCoin or World as, is, Sam and team's conviction in, the future of the world being, agentic and driven by AI, and building the necessary tooling to make that, utopian instead of dystopian. Yeah.
A couple quick ones for you about CoinFund. I'm curious what some of the better projects and biggest wins have been. And then, if there's a through line that we can draw as to like what these had in common, whether it's founders or product market fit, like what are some of the biggest wins? And, if there's a couple of things that you can tie into what each of these projects or protocols or businesses had in common, I think that'd be pretty insightful.
Yeah. So some projects that, so CoinFund's been around since 2015. We're coming up on a 10-year anniversary. So obviously a storied past with a bunch of winners, some to highlight and maybe try to draw a through line too. So I would say like one way to kind of be successful in the venture industry and crypto is like to be early. And I think, in that vein, you could talk about WorldCoin again. Another one that we like to talk about is kind of the Telegram Tonn ecosystem, very early there. So StonFi is kind of the major DEX in the Tonn ecosystem, and that's been a great team, great performer for us. Another area that I think we were early in is just away from kind of World, more just like decentralized AI. I think Jake put out a blog post, I think, what is it, 2025? So like 2.5, maybe 3 years ago now, outlining his kind of vision for decentralized AI at a time where like everyone else was saying that basically this is inefficient and you'll always see centralized AI kind of win out. So in that space, we've made investments in Pluralis, Prime Intellect, Jensen, Pearl, who's doing more on the data side. So like a real ecosystem from just being early to that thesis. And then, I'm really excited about 𝘗𝘂𝘕𝗏. I think they're one of the big gaming winners in crypto over the last couple of years. And then, yeah, maybe like Ondo, Superstate, some of the RWA folks.
Yep.
So a wide breadth, obviously. If I try to draw a line between them, like I said, you can be early to these theses. I think another one is distribution. For a long time, builders in crypto kind of ignored distribution and thought like, just launch my application on Ethereum and a little front end will do the trick. And now we're seeing like 𝘗𝘂𝘕𝗏, for example, got an integration with like PlayStation, Xbox. So like they're on major consoles for the first time. And that's like amazing. You've got the TON ecosystem is all about distribution, right? You've got, more users than any other application in crypto on Telegram, and kind of converting those into transacting crypto users is really exciting thesis. And then, maybe the last thread is seeing a maturation of the industry to the point where, we're seeing founders with expertise from external areas come into crypto, and crypto is becoming consumable and like usable enough that crypto is a tool set for them. And these types of founders I'm seeing them do extremely well. So, the World team, for example, falls into that bucket. The Gainzy gaming team, they're AAA game developers first, and then come and like use the superpowers of crypto to supercharge their outcomes. And same with, some of the people at Ondo with their TradFi experience. So liking that thread of founders, like combining outside expertise with, deep crypto understanding is something that I think I've been looking for recently.
So I assume you haven't been spending much time in the meme coin trenches then.
Personal time doesn't fit the venture, the 10-year venture strategy for me. But personally, it's an interesting place to, experience culture and mess around with friends.
Yeah. And there's also some good lessons in MEV in the Solana trenches.
Absolutely. MEV, super interesting infrastructure problem that I've been looking at for many years. So it's stress testing the infrastructure of blockchains is something that's very valuable, and maybe one of the the best kind of side effects that's come out of the meme coin craze for the last 2 or 3 years.
Bobby, have a great rest of your day. I appreciate you joining. We'll see you next week on the ground at Permissionless and around, and grab a beer or something.
Awesome. Excited to see you in person, and thanks for having me on.
Yes, sir. Always a pleasure, brother. Speak soon.
Cheers.
Cheers, man. All right, guys. That's the stream for today. We had a little bit of a mishap there in the beginning, but all good in the hood. Covered some good topics. The world did not fall apart while we were on. Market's bouncing back a bit. I think people are a bit more calm. TraderMain was great. Bobby was great. I really enjoyed that one. A bit shorter, but really enjoyed it. So thank you guys for coming. We'll see you on Thursday. We have a full setup on Thursday. And as always, guys, thank you for watching the Rollup TV. See you soon.